Hey guys, I'm Chris,
And I'm Mike.
and welcome back to this week's No Limits, the Thriller Podcast, turning in to your spoiler-filled TV podcast, or streaming podcast, I should say. Mike, we are covering The Terminalist, Dark Wolf. We're going to go deep dive, spoiler-filled. I can't wait to talk to you about this series. I'm so excited.
I'm just excited as you are. But before we jump into that spoiler-filled discussion, a quick shout for our patrons. You are the reason this podcast is possible. And if you too want to join this exclusive club of the top thriller readers and thriller fans in the whole world, for less than the price of a novel a month, you too can support the podcast, be the reason we can make more podcasts. So just head over to thrillerpod.com and click the Patreon tab to learn more about the Thriller Pod Patron Book Club. But Chris, yeah, we mainly talk books on this podcast. We spoil them. We dive deep into them. And we are massive fans of the Jack Carr Terminalist series. But when we covered the Jack Carr Terminalist books, it's almost when we're hitting our stride. We are in our zone. It is our element through and through. We love those books. And when the first season of the TV show came out, it was good. But now that Dark Wolf is here, this show is almost everything. The vibes, the feel, the military aspects of it, everything I was hoping that first season would have been, to be honest.
Yeah, and I feel like, we're filling out, like, I guess we should just give a little bit of preempt, right? Like, this is a prequel series. For those of you that have not, well, first of all, I don't know what you're doing here if you haven't watched the first season of The Terminalist. But for those of you who are tuning in, who have watched the first season of The Terminalist, but yet maybe haven't read the book, again,
And you
don't know
don't
what
need
you're
to.
doing, not reading the book. You don't.
Yeah.
But what we should say is that this is a prequel series, that there is no book like for us to like even compare this series to. So it's all new IP, new from the mind of Jack Carr. Obviously, he's executive producer on the series. But what's so cool about this is that if you are a book reader, like getting to meet Mo Farouk, like getting to
Mo.
meet
Amazing.
you know, Landry, like who, I know,
He's
like,
so
I don't know
important. Yeah.
how much of a
We can't
spoiler
say
should
much.
we go in?
All
I
we can
know,
say is those two are very important. Very important. Yeah.
yes, but and then also, we're definitely going to spoil the Terminalist, obviously, and so right off the bat, this is an origin story almost of the villain that is Ben Edwards. It's very interesting, right? But playing on that sympathy card, like that was so gut wrenching, especially reading the book when you find out that it's Ben who
It hurts.
betrayed, Reese. It hurts big because of how likable of a character is, because of how connected you are to him, and then now to get like his backstory it just takes it to a whole nother level. I don't know. I like it. It makes me like the character of Ben Edwards more, but then again, it's like all good villain origin stories. Like you think back to, I don't know, Darth Vader or Voldemort, or even in some of our thriller universe that we've covered, the Sons of Valor series, like just really being put in the mind of someone that ultimately turns is very intriguing to me, and super, I don't know, gets me super excited. I like this
Completely. It's kind of, it rubs me the wrong way to hear you keep using the word villain, because that betrayal stings so bad from the Terminalist, but also I kind of love Taylor Kish's performance of Ben Edwards. And it was it was genius by Chris Pratt and the crew and the team to realize what he did in the Terminalist season 1 deserved a starting role. And in that season, in that series moving forward, he really won't be around much. And that would have been a huge disappointment if all we got of the Terminalist on screen of Ben Edwards and Taylor Kitsch was that first season, and it ended with the turn, off page, off screen, no more. This idea of going backwards before going forwards, I think is just a brilliant play, and to bring not only Ben Edwards into the fold, but Rafe Hastings, an earlier, younger Rafe Hastings. Put him in the list with Mo and Landry and others. He supersedes all of them in importance in the series, really. Second to Reese, one might argue. And here he is, in his prime, in his glory, and the Brotherhood is strong. This episode did a few things so well that I really wanted to feel, because when you read a Jack Carr story, it needs to be about the Brotherhood. It needs to be about having the guys' back, the importance of what the teams mean to them. And when they're sitting around that campfire, when Reeser's giving out gifts, when they're calling each other brother all the time, just the excitement on their face to see and to serve with one another, all that comes through. And also the military aspect of it all. The Terminalist as a story, both on page and on screen, mentioned their military background, but we didn't see them fully fledged into it. Like, it had the funeral montages and it had these different snippets of his military career. Yeah. It exists outside of the plot and the story that was being told. Yet it's so central to who the characters are. And so this series lets Ben Edwards shine. Taylor Kitsch's Ben Edwards. It lets you bring in Rafe Hastings, because if you dropped him out of the blue in a True Believer series, season 2 of The Terminalist, a lot of people might be like, who, where'd he come from? He wasn't really that forward in The Terminalist. And so now you're establishing him. You're establishing the Hastings family with the Rhodesian callbacks, with his father being mentioned. And I think this series is doing so many things right to expand the universe, to allow people to come into it who know nothing about it, and to give a lot of treats to the people who do know a lot.
Yeah, I was going to concur that I feel like this series does more to set up the, Terminalist season 2, True Believer, than just jumping in and like spending an episode or two filling us in on a Muhammad Farouk, or filling us into a Rafe Hastings. Like, this is like what people clamor about when, normal series happen, and you're like, oh, like
the MCU does it, or Star Wars. Yeah.
That. And like, right. And to be able to think like, all right, we had this cool idea of adapting this book into a series. Obviously it has some legs, some heavy hitters are involved. They could have just went right into, book 2, but I think like taking the time, and obviously, like you said, they saw they had something in Taylor Kitsch. So the fact that, they cast him as a character that dies at the end of the first season, like you want to get a little bit more out of that. It just makes perfect sense to let's do a prequel series. And we should say, like, this episode, we're going to, even though we've watched the first 3 episodes, we're going to only try to touch the first episode. For those of you who might be joining in, you only watched 1 episode. So just to give you a little bit of preview, we're going to do episode 1 now. Then we're going to record episodes 2 and 3, 4 and 5, and 6 and 7.
6 and 7, yep.
You have plenty of time to go, watch them, come back. We'll be the after show, after the Thrones, after the Dark Wolf show here. Yeah, so episode 1 is what we're talking about. And yeah, that Brotherhood really, really comes out. Even like the speech that the Major gets at the end, when the decision is made to strip them of their trident, of their sealship, like the fact that what he says about that, like that's just very powerful. I don't know.
Yeah, he's a good character, Commander Cox.
It rang to me.
Yeah,
sure,
great actor too. Totally fulfilling that role. And it's funny because a lot of what Jack Carr comments on in his books and his profile and his media legacy and all the empire that he's built is some problems with the military leadership. But I think what he's showing you here is that there are guys who have your back, but they are also pawns in a bigger game. They're also cogs in the wheel. So the good leaders like Reese, Commander Cox, and like everyone else, there are good apples, right? There are the ones who understand what the mission is and what this is about. And even their hands are tied. And that's so important to the story Jack Carr wants to tell. And here, man, does Taylor Kitsch get his moment with his monologue dressing down the CIA folks. I don't think he's calling out Commander Cox at all in that, or his own military superiors. but man, is he laying into the CIA's bullshit, they're fucking bullshit, which is getting his brothers killed. And on that bridge scene, directly gets his brothers killed. And one other thing I love that they're doing here, bringing in the ISF, bringing in the locals, because that's part of what Jack Carr and Boozer, the guy who plays Boozer, was also one of Jack Carr's SEALmates, one of the most important producers of the show, another executive producer. I feel like they knew you had to tell the story. If we're going to be in Iraq, if we're going to be in Mosul, 2015, fight against ISIS, one of the key components of that is the locals who just want to stand up for their country. The same way the SEALs are doing it to defend America, there are Iraqis willing to put their lives on the line. It's not only Mo, as we mentioned, who's going to be unpacked in the next few episodes, but Duran. The way they, throughout the whole episode, make Duran's family part of the storytelling of where Ben Edwards is going in his mind, his mental break, as you said, to get him to the end of the terminal list, where he is, working in the CIA, coming out of the shadows to help one of his brothers, betraying him in the worst way possible. We needed Ben to get broken. And holy crap, by building up the Duran storyline and his relationship with the family, he's broken. It's so empathetic. You could feel for him. And not to jump to the ending action, because there's a lot of action to get to, when he sees the girl in that room and he hears her voice cowering in the corner, I was like, he's going to snap. I was like, there was so much drama and tension in that scene. It was shot, it was acted, it was performed so well. I was like, this is it. This is where we find out why Ben is the Ben of the terminal list. This is where he snaps, and this is where things in his mind go haywire. And basically the way the terminal list was Reese's revenge plot, and he had to learn about redemption and coming back from the dark side of revenge, the dark side of man, as Jack Carr would say. Now I see where Ben's going. Similar path, but different path, that he's also broken. He's going to be out for revenge, but it's going to be a lot more complicated. Like James Reese, he knows what he's going to get, who he needs to get. He's got a list. He's going to check off those dudes. I feel like Ben is right now committing to going apeshit on these guys, but in a more covert, sneaky kind of way. And so he's got to turn to the CIA. He becomes Black Ops.
Yeah, and I feel like they plant the seeds pretty well that, maybe he doesn't have his life priorities in check. Like, obviously he's a
His
newly married guy, obviously, but that relationship is struggling. He's committed. He can't shy away from the game. It reminds me a lot of Jeremy Renner's character from The Hurt Locker. There's one scene in The Hurt Locker where he's holding his son I think close to the very end. He's like, there's only one thing that I love most in this world, and you're supposed to take it that, oh, it's his son, but then it cuts to him deciding to go back to Afghanistan or to Iraq to defuse bombs, and it's like, oh no, he is married to the game. Nothing. Yeah. He is addicted to that fight. Being in the fight. They're in the fight, right? And then we're gonna get to a character in the next two episodes that from the CIA that definitely talks about that and has a nice speech about that. But yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to bring up this idea of Chris Pratt and James Reese and how much he was used. Did you were you happy with knowing that this is going to be Ben Edwards' origin story, but you knew that Chris Pratt had to be there at some point? I imagine that we're not going to see much of him after this first episode or so, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the decisions that had to be made, is how do you juggle it? How do you use him to bring in people who watch the terminal list? How to use him to get readers to remember this is a spinoff, but it's still interrelated. It's still the characters in and around Reese's life. So I think you had to do that delicately. It was a little clumsy. It felt a little clumsy, him showing up. Now, they did say
a little bit in the beginning, right? Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, Charlie Company is moving out. Alpha's coming in. And so it's a different group of trainers are going to work with the ISF guys. They're cranking it up a next level by bringing in Reese's group to train the ISF. So That was okay. And then the campfire scene, I thought you needed what bonds all these guys together. A little clunky, though, I would say. So I think you're right. I don't know how they handle him moving forward. But if this is the downrange military episode establishing these guys are SEALs, were SEALs in the fight, directly in the war on terror, we've established that. Do you need James Reese now when it goes to the CIA stuff? I don't know. How they handle him moving forward will be a question.
Yeah, does this episode do enough? Well, let's say you're not a book reader. Maybe you didn't even watch the first season of the Terminal List. Like, does this episode do enough for you to get you bought in to wanting to watch the next episode?
Next episode? Yes. I think for sure the next episode. I think and Rosie, it's funny, I watched it with my wife. We don't watch too many of these shows or read these books together. I convinced her to do this one, and she's like, yeah, I think this is more of your demographic. It was like, is this show really just made for, males in their 20s and 30s? And I was like, maybe. So yeah, she's like, a little too testosterone laden. And I told her, I was like, I think they went a little heavy on the military stuff this episode on purpose.
Very heavy.
I don't think the whole show is going to be that committed to the bit. But you're right. I think that leaves us in a gray zone of what's the role for Chris Pratt. So I would say it does enough to make me want to watch the next episode easily. And then when we get there next podcast, episode 2, completely makes you buy into watching the rest of the series. I don't know if it teases me enough to want to know everything about Chris Pratt. If I didn't know about James Reese, he's kind of a little sideshow
go watch
here.
the Terminal List. Yeah.
I don't think it does, but I don't think it needs to. I think we have to make that determination at the end of Dark Wolf. And then ultimately, the big thing we said about Terminal List and any TV show we've ever covered is, does it make you want to read the book? And so I think season 1 of the Terminal List, I was like, maybe kind of. The book's so good that if people only knew this James Reese on screen, I'd be a little concerned they may not transition to the book. I'm pretty confident that after Dark Wolf, most viewers are going to want to say, I need to read this book and figure out more about Ben Edwards, Rafe Hastings, and maybe Chris Pratt, maybe James Reese by the end. So I think we got to keep that one in the bag until episode, 7? We get 7 episodes?
Yeah, 7 episodes. Yeah.
No, I hope I can say, yes, Dark Wolf does so much to expand the universe and drive viewers to the Terminal List and the books.
Yeah, because that's ultimately the goal, right? Yeah.
That would be the biggest success, right? There's no other really measure to measure the show unless it does that.
So we touched on James Reese and Taylor Kitsch. What do you think of the castings for Rafe Hastings and for some of our other characters that we get?
I think Tom Hooper's great.
Dude, I think so
he's
too.
been
I think
a lot of fun.
He does. He Rafe, for those of you who haven't read the books, like, is described as this, very tall, Rhodesian man, like
svelte. He's very svelte.
Whether or not he's doing like a great Rhodesian accent, I don't know. But what's really funny is that when I maybe they got Ray Porter to voice the voice of his dad in that's next episode. But anyways, the voices remind me of how Rafe and Jonathan Hastings sound in the audiobook, at least. So at least Porter, whoever, agreed. At least Tom Hooper maybe listen to the audiobook, or Ray Porter listen to, we should give more credit to Ray Porter that he's nailing these accents. But yeah, it's not coming across as like British, which I know he is, right? So
yeah, I think he does just enough to kind of get the accent right. You're so smart to compare it to Ray Porter, who nails it in the audiobooks. And I think that's why I've liked Tom Hooper's accent and take on the character. It's reminding me of how Ray Porter would read the character from the page. So yeah, I like that. And I have to say about him, one, he's the eye candy. I guess you got Taylor Kitsch as well, but some more eye candy. He's almost like that Alan Ritchson from the Reacher series. Like, you need the hunk, like
from Reacher,
just dude who's built from Reacher. Yeah. Someone who's just built. And so I think he brings that element. And I also wonder his role, because like it's clear Boozer is just minor character who's there to support the boys and will be used on ops and brought in. But Rafe has to be a little more than that. He has to be a little more central than a teammate like Boozer, but he can't overshadow Ben Edwards. So
Right.
I think how you handle him moving forward will be important.
Yeah. Now, I just remember when he came in to replace whoever had done Dickon Tarley in Game of Thrones season 6, and he was just like this huge glow up because they had switched actors between seasons, and like whoever they had before was just nowhere near the man that Tom Hooper is. Like it's crazy.
Well, one of the best performances, though, acting wise, I think is Mo. I think Mo Farouk's character. I think he just kills it when they're going through the checkpoint, and he's bribing the ISIS dude at the checkpoint. I think that acting is 10 out of 10. I don't think you can beat it. He's playing a local, but he's on our side. Can't show that. He's got to stand up to these ISIS guys, but not be rough or forward enough that they suspect something. But he knows that's their language. Violence is their language. So he has to show them that violence just by his facial expressions. Oh, I just think Mo's been amazing. Duran was good too, and Duran's whole family. But I think if I were going to say just off the bat who's impressing me most on the pure acting side, I think I'm going with Mo.
Yeah, and what's funny is like I don't even know if they say Mo. I don't even know if they say his name in the first episode. Like he's obviously mentioned.
He's just there.
If it is, it's very. It's done in passing.
Well, Chris Pratt gives him a hug when he comes onto base. Like there's an embrace.
There's an embrace, and like, but it didn't click with me. Like I immediately clicked with the character. Like I liked it, but then when we got to episode 2 and they actually said his name,
that's
like,
Mo.
I was like, oh my god,
Mo Farouk. Yep.
No wonder I like that character.
Same thing with Landry. Landry was the lackey man for the CIA dude in the debriefing and in the office. And then he's going out to look for Duran. I'm like, why is that name ringing a bell? Why is that name ringing a bell? Like, he's kind of weaselly. He's kind of the shadowy guy. I don't know if I could trust him. I know he's CIA, but is he fully CIA? I couldn't place the Landry guy. And when that clicked, I was like, oh, shit, it's also Landry. Like, that's Mo and Landry. Yeah. Little nuggets like that were fun for us book fans.
Yeah, Landry, the third Hemsworth brother. You got
Right.
I guess with Pratt being close with Chris Hemsworth, he was able to get the chubbier Hemsworth brother out of the 3.
and later on in the next few episodes, he plays that role very well.
Yeah. So I mean, man. this first episode, man, I really like it, and the action, like you said, that bridge scene, super intense. The various going into Mosul multiple times, obviously a lot of tension, and then at the very end, culminating with that action scene of them going in and sort of going off script. Like, they're doing great, and then also like just the training, like getting. I think that having Jack as an executive producer, having Boozer, what's his actual name?
I can't think of it.
Jared Shaw.
Yep.
Yeah, having
Jack
Jared Shaw
yeah.
there as, obviously these 2 previous Navy SEALs on the team as producers, like it definitely shows that they cared about getting like that aspect of it right. So
I mean, if there's one thing you could say about everyone on the show, it's a deep sense of care and respect, and you want to do it right, like they're not going to tell the story unless everything checks out. And Chris Pratt said that in a lot of interviews. He goes, look, we very much rely on the guys who have been there, done that. Like, we listen to them. It's not like other Hollywood production teams where you might buy the story, kick them to the curb, or you might give them lip service and say, oh, we want to hear about your experience serving and tell us what it's like, and we want to try to recreate that. And then they go Hollywood gonna Hollywood, right? Now, Chris has said, like, if we're going to change things for the sake of delivering an on-screen performance, a TV performance, we're going to change 20%. But like, there's a threshold of like, it has to be 80% realistic to the core. So you're only going to change a very minimal amount of things and not the core things, which would take veterans and service members and people who've been there. You know, Iraq 2015, pretty recent. We got a lot of guys who probably want to watch this show, guys and gals, who know what it's like on one of those bases, right? That like forward operating base or whatever it would be, and working with the locals, right? And you interact with them. And even the checkpoint where Duran is coming through with the prosthetic leg, I'm sure so many people like that, that's real to them, visualizing what it's like to see the locals lining up, being like, oh shit, are any of these guys compromised? Like they're walking our base, showing their papers, cooking our meals, keeping our operation alive. And like, obviously we want to trust them. We're here to liberate their country, deliver to them a more prosperous and free future. But shit, could the terrorists use that as an opportunity? And unfortunately, this Denawi character, weapons mastermind, ultimately the bomb supplier who gives or forces Duran into the prosthetic, they manipulate our systems, right? They know our security on base. They know what's going to get through. And that's what Jack always says is like, we have to outthink them. We have to out-tactic them. You know, if they're learning 20 plus years of this war against terrorism in Iraq and Afghanistan, the enemy is learning, and we have to learn and adapt faster, quicker, and better. And I feel like that's what Ben's going to learn is that bomb went off and they compromised Iran because they knew us too well. They knew how to hit us. And now Ben's going to say, the military, the SEALs, are not giving me the proper structure and command to hit them back and out-tactic them within the military system. So I'm going to have to hit them back outside the military system and find another path. So I think that also just plays perfectly with where Ben is in his headspace.
Yeah.
Dude, the bridge scene. The bridge scene. Tell me what you thought when you turned on the show and within, 5 minutes, everything goes absolutely haywire on the bridge. Were you loving that? I was loving it.
Oh, it's just like it brings you in. It's intense. It's very intense. And the fact that like we get very little plot in this first episode, like it's, you know, this obviously setting up this idea of who this Denawi guy
Jabari
is, and he's
and Al-Jabari.
And Al-Jabari, like there's something going on, like the CIA is doing something, but then, you know, we're gonna cover in the next couple episodes like how there's a hard shift like coming, and like the fact that this episode purely stands to introduce us to these characters, give us their background, and allow us, you know, all right, we can sort of put all this behind while like giving us a little bit of the breadcrumbs of like what the whole season is going to be about. And I think it does a very good job of that. Like it's not, you know, while I maybe have some gripes about like how James Reese was used and stuff like that, I don't think overall this episode was that clunky. Like I think it had a purpose and it served its purpose pretty well.
Completely agree. And to have that culminate in the Al-Jabari raid, where these guys realize the command structure because of the dirty tricks by the CIA are the reason our brothers are killed and the reason the terrorist is still operating. And to go on their own, they go off reservation and basically the radio check. I knew it was going to happen when they pretended the radios weren't connecting and faked the message. When they hit that house, I'm like, they're going to take things into their own hands. And that's another theme of Jack Carr's. What happens when operators take things into their own hands because they're not happy with the status quo, and they're trained and they're fully capable of taking things into their own hands? I was like, go get him. Go get this Jabari guy. And then on that raid, when he hears the girl and recognizes it, it's like time stops. I forget what they did with the sound, but I think everything went quiet. Or Al-Jabari was still in the background saying, I'm CIA, I'm an asset, you know, I'm on your side, and all this stuff. It just fades away.
See the subtitles. Yeah, they do that a couple times with this, like, it's kind of like slow motion with the camera, but at the same time everything is like normal speed. Like I guess the words are not slow motion. They're just like the actions are slow motion, and you can just tell that something is like coming, you know? So
like on the bridge, when the hostages are not moving forward on the bridge, they perfectly timed it where you as the audience feel something's not right, and you know there's an impending danger. You're just waiting for the shoe to drop, and these hostages are stuck in the middle, and then that guy raises the gun, and all hell breaks loose, and
Right.
then they see the vest, and they really cinematically. It's almost like a movie, like in a movie theater. You know, when that shoe drops and everything goes silent. You know, there's like a different feeling in the atmosphere of that movie theater. They recreated that feeling on your couch. Like TV doesn't often recreate the feels of a movie. I feel like this episode recreated the feeling of, am I in a movie theater right now with like Dolby surround sound and like all this? It felt that way watching it.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel fake. Like I don't want to like badmouth some other movies or stuff that we've covered, but like it doesn't feel gray man to me. You know, it feels like a level up from that.
It's grounded, more grounded.
So yeah, more grounded for sure.
Yeah. What an episode. Overall, I don't know if we should do scores or rankings, because that's something we prefer to do with books, and that's more in our wheelhouse for books. But if you had to give this episode a letter grade, just compared to your expectations going in, what would you say?
I think it's a solid B+. I think this episode is like a solid B+, like A-. Like, and probably part of my score is dictated. I wonder if we had truly recorded this after I'd only watched one episode, what I would have given it. Because it's I've unfortunately I've seen 2 more episodes. And we had originally planned to record these like standalone, but you know, life gets in the way. Teeth get pulled. Pneumonia. I had pneumonia. Mike
get
had
kicked
back
out
to
of the
school
house and have to pot in the backyard.
Mike is potting in the backyard. You know, we are just 2 humble men who do this on the side. So
anything for the pod.
Anyways,
anything for the pod.
I think it's a solid B+. You know, it does enough. It does more than enough. Get me excited. I'm definitely watching the next episode after I watch this, but it's not like A-. I'm hooked for the season already. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think I lowered expectations a little, because after the Terminalist TV show, I went in with too high of expectations because I love the book. It was a clear example of, I went in too high. So it was a clear example of, damn, nothing can be as good as the book. Like the first read of the book. And I told this on the earlier episodes when we covered both the book and the TV show. I can remember precisely where I was. And this is 6 years ago. The book came out even more than that. Whatever, 6, 7 years ago, the book came out. I picked it up a little bit later. I remember reading what happens to James Reese and his family. I could think of the exact spot on campus. I was back at Catholic University, exact spot on campus. I sat down on the curb and I just thought, it's one of those books that makes you just stop and question things or think about things, or maybe I would say prioritize things. And I remember just sitting on the curb 5-10 minutes. I don't even know. Just that scene did so much to me. And so when I didn't really get that exact feeling from the TV show, I raised my expectations too high. So for this one, I came in with lower expectations. And because of that, it blew me away. I'm going straight A, not an A+.
Straight A.
I would say I'm just slight dings from an A+, but I'm going straight A for episode 1 because it did so much that I wanted it to do. And I was so pleasantly pleased.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah. A lot of potential.
Well, we have a lot more episodes to cover. We should pause so we can talk about episodes 2 and 3. So
let's do it.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. If, again, Mike said at the top, but if you guys like this episode, this is your first time listening, go check out. We have 3 other seasons of No Limits. We started out covering all of Mitch Rapp. We have all of Brad Thor, and then right now on the Thriller Podcast covering thrillers, thriller universe. We might even dip into a little bit of sci-fi. Me and Mike recently read Project Hail Mary, and we both loved it. So, yeah, and special thanks to our patrons. Shout out to Deputy Director Sherry F. and Brad E. Special agents Adam, Mike, Ben, Daryl, George, Matt, Don, and Chris. So, and as always, just let Ben be Ben. There you go. Just let Chief be Chief.
Chief.